In these times of COVID-19 and quarantine, there's a lot of talks these days about what makes someone essential. Maybe it's the case that you're still driving into the office every day, and the reason why is because, congratulations, you are essential. And maybe you're one of those individuals who are considered non-essential, and you're able to work from home. Lucky you. Well, in the body of Christ, here's the thing. Everyone is essential. There's no such thing as a non-essential member of the body of Christ. And where do we get this idea? Really, we get it all throughout the Scriptures. Jesus, for example, talked about the value of a soul, that there's not anything that someone can give in exchange for his soul. And we're all spirits. We're all individual souls that will live eternally. So in the body of Christ, everyone is important. Everyone matters. But we find this idea specifically in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And for our Bible study tonight, I just want to think about this passage. I want to invite you to read it with me. We'll read a few of these scriptures together, and then we'll think about how essential everyone is in the body of Christ. I want to pick up in verse 12 of 1 Corinthians chapter 12. We read, "For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ." So we'll pause right here just to make the comment that there is just one body. There is one church. This is the work of God that He has done through Jesus Christ to establish an organization, to establish an institution, to establish a spiritual entity that is called a number of different things in the New Testament, but it's also, as we read here, it's referred to as the body, the soma of Christ. And there's but one. There's but one body. There's but one church. And all those who belong to Jesus, all those who have become obedient to the gospel of Christ, all those who are in Jesus, they are within this one body. And within this one body, there are a lot of members, right? There's one body, there are many members. And we see how we gain entrance into the body in verse 14. "For in one Spirit we were all baptized into one body." And so the means of entrance into the body is by the Spirit of God, and it is by the act of baptism. We are baptized in one body. It does not matter your background, because he says Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and all were made to drink of one Spirit. And then in verse 14 we read, "For the body does not consist of one member, but of many." Again, there are many members in the body of Christ. Verse 15, "If the foot should say, 'Because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body,' that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear should say, 'Because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body,' that would not make it any less a part of the body." So if it is the case that someone in the church or someone within the body of Christ, in his or her unique role in the body of Christ, looks across to the other side of the body and sees another function that's going on within the body, and because that person sees that he or she is not a part of that, the person can't say, "Well, I'm not a part of the body because I'm not a part of that work. I'm not engaged in that work." It doesn't work that way. And we'll see why here in just a minute as we keep reading. Verse 17, we read, "If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing?" Now we understand that our physical bodies, they serve, they fulfill a lot of different functions. The eye sees, the ear hears, the hands, they touch, they hold. We have all of these different functions, but the individual body parts fulfill unique functions. Okay? So what is the application that's being made here within the church? Again, verse 17, "If the whole body were an eye, where would be the sense of hearing? Or if the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? The application is that within the body of Christ, there are different functions. Just like in our physical bodies, we have different parts that serve different functions. So it is in the body of Christ. So it is in the church. The church does different things. It's serving one greater purpose, but within the church, there are different works that go on. And that those works are unique to those parts. Those works are unique to those members. And all together, a greater purpose is being served. Let's keep reading. Verse 18. But as it is, God arranged the members in the body. So who determines it? Who has set up the body of Christ like this? It's not you and me. We're not the ones who say, well, I think that this should be done over here. And, that's not really working over there, so let's fix that. No, it's God that has arranged the body to function in this way. God has arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? Verse 20, as it is, there are many parts, yet one body. So just to have a time out here to summarize that which we've read. There's one body. There's many members. We've been baptized into this one body. And there are many different functions that the body of Christ engages in. And you have all these different parts working together, working uniquely in what they're doing. And all of this serves a greater purpose. And this is the way that God has arranged it. Now, let's get to this idea that everyone is important. Everyone is essential in the body of Christ. There's no such thing as an unessential member of the body of Christ. We get this specifically from verse 21 beginning. Paul says, the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the parts of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And on those parts of the body that we think less honorable, we bestow the greater honor, and our unpresentable parts are treated with greater modesty, which our more presentable parts do not require. But God has so composed the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. Do you see that there's not any one part of the body that can dismiss another part of the body? Those parts that we might consider to be weaker, well, they're indispensable. Those parts of the body that we might think are less honorable, well, we bestow greater honor to those parts. In fact, God gives greater honor to those parts. There is no such thing as an unessential member of the body of Christ. Now, that's a biblical truth. So I guess my question is, how should we live our lives in consideration of that truth? Well, first of all, I think that we need to consider that every person matters. What that means for you and for me is that I matter and you matter. Sometimes we might have a very low sense of self-worth, and we think very less of ourselves, very lowly of ourselves. And part of that is because we know ourselves better than anyone else. It's God that knows us perfectly. But we are our own worst critics. So sometimes we will think very lowly of ourselves within the context of the body of Christ. There's always someone who's a better preacher. There's always someone who's a better teacher. There's someone who is a better example. There's someone who knows the Bible better than we do. There's someone who sings more beautifully. We can think of all of these different areas of Christian service where we find shortcomings in our own lives. We need to cut ourselves some slack. And we need to see our value. We need to see our unique value in the body of Christ. And then we also need to cut others some slack as well. We need to resist the temptation in our lives to see others as weaker, as less honorable. Because the thing is, we could be wrong about that. We could be wrong. We might think that those people are dispensable, but God says, no, they're indispensable. We might think that those people don't have much to offer, but who are we to make that call? So it's not only us that matters. It's not only you and me. It's others. And so we need to cut others some slack. We need to look for their value. We need to see it because it's there. And then we need to honor that in a way that honors God. So we're all essential. We're all essential. And so knowing that, we do not need to try to make everyone the same in the body of Christ because, well, just look at your physical body. You have all these different parts. They're not the same. And that's good. God has arranged it that way in your physical body, but also God has arranged that in His spiritual body, in the church. We have all of these different talents. We have all of these different gifts. We have all of these different abilities. And we're not the same. And that's good. We should celebrate that. And we should resist the temptation to try to make everyone the same. And I'm not talking about doctrine here. I'm talking about encouraging people to serve in the area that God has placed them. To not overstep our boundaries. To try to work with people and to encourage them to use their gifts, their abilities, their talents to the glory of God. And what is the reason for all of this? What is the reason for this diversity? What is the reason that we are to see one another as valuable and indispensable in the body of Christ? Well, if you look at verse 25, our unity is something which we should consider. Verse 25, that there may be no division in the body, but that the members may have the same care for one another. So our unity is at stake here. If we do not see one another as valuable, if we do not allow others to operate in their God-given role, then the unity of the church will be compromised. And then our empathy, verse 26, if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. If we do not value others, then how are we going to suffer with them when they suffer? How are we going to rejoice with them when they rejoice? How are we going to honor them when we should honor them? And so there's no such thing. To sum all of this up, there's no such thing as an unessential member of the body of Christ. We have all been baptized into one body. God has arranged it to be this way. God is the one who has determined that there should be diversity in the body of Christ, that we're not all the same, and this is good. This is all arranged by God. And so seeing this, we should encourage one another to operate in the functions, in the specific places within the body that God has prearranged, and we should love one another, seek unity between the individual parts of the body. We should be empathetic. We should rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. This is kingdom life. This is life in the church. And it's something to think about. It matters all the time. And at this time, as we're not able to physically be together, it's something which we should always be considering. And I pray that this Bible study tonight was of value to you. I want to encourage you to consider where you fit in the body of Christ, and pray that God would allow you to grow within the body and would encourage you to use your talents and gifts. We love you. We're praying for you. And we hope to see you this Sunday online as we go to God and worship once more. May God bless you throughout the rest of this week.